Lizzie and Darcy are two of literature's most loved romantic characters, yet the foundation for Austen's fantasy is based in reality.
I'm interested in sort of families and dynamics and love and jealousy and what goes on in that Bennet family, and I think everyone is.
My dear Mr. Bennet, have you heard? Netherfield Park is let at last.
The Bennet family are at the heart of Pride and Prejudice, and it's the real everyday concerns of 18th century family life that give the story such timeless and universal appeal.
Mrs. Bennet loves her daughters. I think she's an amazing mother. She would walk across hot coals for any of her daughters, and it's that love of them that drives her on and forward.
There's nothing so bad as parting with one's children.
Mrs. Bennet is not some sort of broad comic dowager, silly creation. She's terribly funny, but she's a sort of heroic character because she's got 5 daughters, and within a very short period of time before they become date expired, she's got to marry them to save the family.
Tell her you insist upon them marrying.
Nowadays, it's a thing not to get married, isn't it? You know, give all men a wide berth. But then, it was a problem. Women didn't have the status they have nowadays. And it was important to have a roof over your head.
The only choice girls of certainly upper middle class, any girl really, family girls had was to marry. That was it. That was the job that they had to do. That was the only way that they could survive, the only way they could better themselves was the kind of marriage that she takes.
Mr. Bingley is just what a young man ought to be.
I think your focus was certainly on marriage from a much earlier age, and that was, of course, the only option, really. At the beginning of the film, they're talking about these things. They're talking about men, they're talking about marriage, they're talking about things they don't understand. They think passionately about them every minute of the day, but suddenly their emotions catch up with their minds. And I think it's what you're watching in this film is girls experience huge feelings for the first time.
Mr. Collins and I are engaged.
Engaged? The thing about Elizabeth is she's very human. Maybe that's why the book is as popular as it is.
To be married? Not all of us can afford to be romantic.
I think Lizzie Bennet's quite a difficult character. I think she's quite, she's so strong-willed and so kind of, she doesn't want a quiet life. She will question all the time.
Daughter, marry, is that really all you think about?
One of 7 siblings herself, Austen builds on her own experiences of family life to give huge depth and colour to the relationships within the Bennet family.
I like the idea that behind closed doors that they're a real family, that they squabble and argue and talk over each other, but then anyone else comes to the door and immediately you close ranks.
He's here, he's at the door. Oh my goodness, everybody behave naturally.
Society as a whole starts with the family, and if the family unit is not treasured and nourished, you know, everything's going to go to pot. So I think we should take a leaf out of their book.
Have you no compassion for my poor nerves?
Oh, you mistake me, my dear. I have the highest respect for them. They've been my constant companions these 20 years. I loved being with Mr. Bennet. I certainly had a great deal of affection for his family. That's for sure. I loved those girls.
Lydia's focus is purely like ribbons and soldiers. She just doesn't care. She's sort of living in the now and the present and is more excited about, you know, having a good time and not wanting it to end, really.
They're like the kids that hang out on the end of my road on the estate. You know, they're loud and they're annoying and massively confident.
I completely relate to all of the giggling and the gossiping, and especially when the militia arrive. We put ourselves into the most ridiculous, lovely costumes in all different colours, and we just have to stand out.
Here's Jane, I lent you my green slippers. They were mine. Oh, well, then I'll do a Wendy for a week. Oh, Richard,
Jane's the eldest Bennet, and I guess, you know, in that time she'd have had a lot of responsibility bringing up the younger girls as well. So she has a slightly sort of motherly instinct.
Oh, Lizzie, if I could but see you so happy, if there was such another man for you.
The Austens were a very close family, and we do feel that that relationship between Jane Austen and her sister Cassandra is mirrored in Elizabeth and Jane.
The two older sisters, they're just perfect creatures, and then there's the two younger girls who are sort of giggly and silly.
I think a ball is a perfectly irrational way to gain new acquaintance.
And then there's Mary in the middle, who doesn't really know what she's doing half the time, I think.
Yes, it's a great love story between Elizabeth Bennet and Fitzwilliam Darcy, but underpinning it all is this kind of love that runs this family, that makes this family operate in such a wonderful, absurd, amusing and exciting way. You know, there's such a great mix of characters. They're kind of irresistible.